On today's Motor House, we celebrate the unexceptional.
At the Festival of the Unexceptional. Yay!
Hello everyone, and it's an early start on a Saturday. Forgive me if I'm all bleary-eyed and so on, but it's me, Mr. Bob, and the Ratchet.
Hello.
Hello. And we are in the one, the only Danii Jazz.
Yay!
Now, you might be wondering why we're dressed like a pair of hipster douchebags. The reason is, in fact, we are dressed period appropriate for a very good reason. We are en route, and according to the sat-nav, only 12 minutes away from Hagerty's Festival of the Unexceptional. Now, already there's a bright yellow metro behind us. We've just seen something else unexceptional and retro going the other way, and there's a very good reason for that. Hagerty Insurance, who run the show, about 6 or so years ago, decided to set up Festival of the Unexceptional to highlight the fact that there are now cars like this Jazz that are rarer than exotic cars.
Yeah,
right?
I think there's like 20-ish cars in the UK and only like 4 or 5 are actually on the road.
Yeah, only about
mine.
Including this one. So yeah, Hagerty realised that there's all these kind of day-to-day humdrum cars that have completely disappeared. And that's because, you know, they weren't designed to be cherished or looked after. They were designed to be used, pretty much thrown away. Now, the event organisers strongly encourage people to dress in era-appropriate clothing for their car, which is why for the past couple of weeks Ratchet and I have been hunting around the charity shops, hunting around the vintage shops and so on for this magnificent combo. This is so 80s, alright! Yeah. So I guess now's as good a time as any to give you a running update on what's been going on with Danii. Now, as you can tell, we're in Danii. Danii's running great. You've been using Danii as your daily driver, right?
Yeah, I've been using Danii for the last couple of weeks, just popping to work and back. Got through like my first tank full, pretty good miles per gallon. Is
good little tiny engine.
Yes, little tiny
engine. So since the last video, Danii's had a complete service, full engine service, so oil, cam belt, which wasn't the original, but we do know from some of the markings on there, has at least been on since about 1988.
Yeah.
So super glad we changed that one.
Oh yeah.
What else did we do? Plugs, full coolant change,
air filter. I've had the dash out and fixed some wiring issues that were there.
All right, well, we are in the queue now. There's obviously a lot of people who are desperate to see such spectacular CHOD such as this.
I'm desperate to see it.
Are you desperate for CHOD?
Well,
official Ratchet's desperate for CHOD. Oh my lord, we're here. There's so much CHOD.
There is.
There's so much CHOD, but we're here. Danii's made it, even though it got a little bit hot in traffic. Little bit hot.
Kleiner.
It's
but fine.
No, we're good. The fans are working, and because we are retro douchebags, the car is accessorised suitably with the Speak and Spell, and Cookie Monster there is going to be well entertained with the Tomitronic 3D. And of course, every spoiled rich daddy's girl in the 80s had her own Raycal Vodafone mobile phone. So we're in the judging area for the Concours de L'ordinaire, which is where some of the most ordinary and unexceptional cars are here for the judging.
A few are tickling my fancy.
Plenty of Austin Rover CHOD though, I'm liking that.
A lot.
You gotta love the BL stuff. There's a very strange Allegro over there. Shall we go and... Yeah,
let's go.
Yeah, Allegro time. Now, if ever there was a car that was the iconic symbol of unexceptional 70s blandness, some would say the Austin Allegro. Now, I'm a little bit of an Austin Leyland apologist, so I actually think they were quite an innovative car for the time. Hydrogas suspension, 5-speed gearbox, front wheel drive, very European. None more European than this particular beige Allegro behind me, because tap tap tap, this badge here indicates that this was actually made in Italy under license by Innocenti. I have never ever seen one of these. What's more well known are the Innocenti Minis that were made in Italy, but I've never ever seen an Innocenti Allegro. When did you last see a left-hand drive Allegro? And so there you go, what a wonderfully clean, loved, bespoke example of beige gorgeousness. Ah, another Leyland icon, the Austin Ambassador, the choice no less of John Shuttleworth's doggo. The Austin Ambassador, not a Y reg. This one's an A reg. The Ambassador was like a 2-year stopgap. It was based on the Princess. Again, it's a car that's lambasted as being, oh, what a load of old junk, and yeah, maybe they weren't built very well. But you have a look at a car for the 70s, front wheel drive, you could have the Princess with a 6-cylinder engine. Again, the hydrogas type suspension, fantastic ride quality, British Leyland, but they were broke. They needed to refresh things much faster. So towards the end of the Princess's life, it was meant to be replaced by the upcoming Montego Maestro, but they weren't ready in time. So what they had to do was reheat the Princess, and they came up with the Ambassador. A bit more 80s styling, but notably, compared to the Princess, it gained a hatchback. So great for John Shuttleworth to put all these organs and stuff in for a gig. Oh my lord, it's Jesse's car. Let me ask you a question, Ratchet.
Okay.
What happened to two-tone cars?
I don't know. Bring them back.
We've met the owner. Say hello, Paul.
Hello.
Tell us about your magnificently quirky Tercel here.
August the 15th, 1985.
Yeah.
And she's been all over Europe.
Amazing.
In 2004, I let a friend have it. And he abused it, and it was passed on to 3 or 4 other owners.
Yeah.
And fortunately, my son got it back for me in 2015 from a guy in Norfolk.
So it's come home.
It's come home.
It's come home.
It's come home.
Is it going to leave home now,
No,
or is it
no,
back for good?
No, it's back. It's going
It's
to
like
be.
you take that song. It's back for good.
It's back for good.
It's
yeah,
back
it's
for
back
good.
for good. But unfortunately, my granddaughters don't like it, so I don't know what's going to happen to it. But I've got a friend who he's got one as well, so he'll probably end up having it. So.
It's a duty of care, bizarre old cars like
I
this,
think
isn't
it is. Yeah. Look at them. Isn't it lovely?
It's wonderful. There's so
Isn't it
many.
lovely?
Are there?
Yeah.
So what's the obvious questions? And
Right.
we have some strange old cars as well. Parts availability.
Ooh,
It's a teeth dryer, isn't it?
It is, yeah. All over the world. Australia, America, Thailand. Fortunately, we've managed to get 3 of these old wrecks in Wales. There seem to be the graveyard for Toyota Tercel.
Well, 4-wheel drive maybe, so they could be used on farms perhaps?
I think that's what it was,
yeah.
but they're all finished now. The ones we've brought back from Wales, all finished.
Yeah.
You know, all kind of rusted, but we've really got enough parts to keep us going.
Leave nothing on the bone, right?
Nothing on the bone, and one went taken away last week to be made into Coke cans, I reckon.
It's kept the others on the road,
It
right?
has, yeah, and the guy, we're in contact with the guy who let us have it, taken everything.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and we've got loads of engines and gearboxes.
Wonderful.
So
well,
we're
lovely
all
to see you. Thank you for bringing it along.
So My dad had a Montego estate in the 80s. He used it for towing the caravan to take us all on holiday, and his was the 7-seater in red. And my fond memories of my dad growing up were mainly him getting us to the holiday site and then having to spend most of the holiday fixing the damn thing because it had broken en route.
That's a quality motorcycle, that is right.
Yeah, he didn't say that a lot. There was a lot of expletives instead. Oh, sweet memories.
So how old were you then when
Gosh,
your
I
dad
would
had a
have
Montego?
been like 6 or 7.
Yeah?
So yeah, like
Oh my... Oh look!
the centre seat was mine because my sister was always on the driver's side, my brother was always on this side, and we'd have like the tow me thing, like game playing that,
Yeah.
and it was my brother's, but I wanted to use it, and yeah, and then it had the rear facing flip up seat. I mean, in hindsight, like if you got rear-ended, you'd just have been killed because that's like crumple zone. So this is the 2-litre. I think my dad had like the 1.6, the 1.8. I have memories of him complaining how gutless it was. And yeah, the wiper motors. Oh no, they were constantly packing up in the rain. So many memories of coming back off holiday with my mum and my dad with their heads out the window, driving down the motorway, caravan on the back, probably shouldn't be telling you this, kids in the back, and like the wipers are just packed in. What do you do? What do you do? Yeah, and of course this was like pre-internet age, so it's not like you could just go order one on eBay or something. So it was like my dad finding a phone booth, calling round local scrapyards to try to find one.
Stories from Dad doing the same, as that car broke down on holiday and he walked to a local scrapyard, took the part off and fixed the car.
That was my youth in the 80s, was just that. So yeah, that's pretty cool, pal. Nice to see one.
So there was a brief period of time where some of our native car interests crossover
and made some babies.
What year would it be? About 85, earlier. 79. An unlikely union of car companies.
Yeah, I mean, a bastion of reliability and engineering excellence.
And then Honda. Rover cars in particular, they were always quite middle class, quite upmarket, traditional staid engineering. And then you have Honda that had forged itself a reputation in quite a short space of time for reliability, economy. Kind of the car that's most remembered for is the Hyacinth Bouquet Special.
Yes.
It's the Rover 200 series, of which a particularly fine example is behind us here. So, what was your first reaction when the bonnet was open, Ratchet?
That looks familiar, like super duper familiar. Oh my goodness, that's a Honda engine. That kind of confirms it, the little H. So yeah, I would guess an early derivative of the Honda D series engine, for which I know a lot of from 90s Hondas.
So this one's quite notable because this is the Den Plas specification. Now, Den Plas were a coach builders originally, and for example, especially in the 70s, you could buy very high-end prestige versions of regular cars. So you could get a Den Plas Jaguar, and they even did a Den Plas Allegro, of which I've spotted one. We'll go and find that in a minute. By this period in time, Den Plas weren't really coach builders anymore. It had become a trim level, and that's quite a common thing through car history. You'd find it again. There'd be like Ford bought Ghia, for example, who were coach builders and stylists, and that became a trim level. But what it did mean in all of this front-wheel drive compact magnificence is that you got leather and wood. Ooh, Hyacinth Bouquet would love this. So just a moment ago we were talking about that crazy tie-up between Austin Rover and Honda. This was both the first and the last of its kind. So this was the first because this was the first Austin Rover Honda collaboration, the Triumph Acclaim, but it was also the very last Triumph. And it's weird really, it was a very strange car to end the history of the brand on, because Triumph had got a reputation for building like sports saloons and sports cars, and yet the Acclaim was a front-wheel drive sort of economy car based on, I think it was the Honda Ballard, and in this case, none more less sporty because it's the Triomatic. Let me ask you a question. What could be better than all of the glory of a Proton 1.5 GL? Well, what if you had the Black Knight? So some of our younger viewers may not know what this car is. So the Proton brand was a Malaysian company, and like a lot of those young companies, like Daewoo as well, they were Korean, but there's quite a few companies started off by essentially making license-built versions of previous generation cars. So what you were doing when you bought a Proton, or something like a Hyundai Pony, for example, or a Daewoo Espero, is you were already buying a brand new car that was effectively an old car. Not that you care when there's so much magnificence as the Black Knight. Check out this interior. So these were based on a Mitsubishi, and I remember when these were launched they were super popular with pensioners. They were really reliable. Look at all of this magnificence, and of course, in case you forgot, there's the Black Knight.
And as it happened, it wasn't just us that was taken in by the delight of the Black Knight. The car, owned by John Coupland, was the eventual winner of the Concours de L'ordinaire 2021. And so, with that, we conclude part 1 of our coverage of the 2021 Festival of the Unexceptional. Join us soon in part 2, where we'll be taking a tour of some of the magnificent CHOD lining the visitors' parking area. As ever, thank you very much for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up and hit subscribe to see more videos from Motorhouse.